Good evening, folks. It's a privilege to be here with you tonight. I am originally born in Europe, Romania, and I had a chance to see both sides of what health is. I was born in a country where everything is organic. You know, recently we do have these expressions, biologic, organic, non-GMO. 50 years ago, you didn't have that kind of labels, correct? So tonight I would like to introduce you some interesting elements of my personal life. First of all, I would like to start with a statement. I don't know exactly if this is politically correct, but if you want to stay popular, tell people good things about their what? Wrong habits. It's not my style. However, it looks like in the business world, in the economical world, people are practicing this. You know, if you eat chips or you smoke, oh, it's okay, don't worry, it does good to the lungs. Just because people want to stay in touch with you, and we do have this exaggeration of what self-esteem is. You don't need to offend a person, so stay popular, tell people good things about their wrong habits. I don't think that if this is pretty okay with us, especially if we want to stay friends. However, when we talk about food addiction is one of the worst things that you can face today in the world. Why? Because food addiction is not supervised. For instance, if you are an alcoholic, there are centers, places specifically designed for you to get rid of alcohol. But there are no centers yet for food addiction. Food addiction is very welcome, is very homey, and people are really enjoying the eating and overeating. What do you think about it? Is that true? Food addiction, it's a reality. And they take the truth as authority rather than authority as truth. Few aspects of life. It's not easy to walk on that rope. Yes, you need a balance. So I would like to say that life has few connotations. Food, you know, you want to have a good life, you have to have good food, correct? You have a quality food. You need eventually happiness, and then you need something else, fulfillment of your life. And all together will give you a purpose of life. Unfortunately, we are living in an era where people have a life out of balance. I met in Vancouver a Chinese friend. He didn't have papers back in Canada. And I was presenting a breakfast under 12 minutes. And he said, listen, I'm poor, I don't have papers, I have to work 12 hours per day. I woke up 4 o'clock in the morning, rushed to work. At 5 o'clock I have to start my work. And I work as a slave because I have no papers, no rights. So I don't have time to prepare this fancy breakfast you presented here. I'm rushing into McDonald's, buy my burger and my fries, and that's it. And I had to present a breakfast under 12 minutes. I said, how much time do you spend online to McDonald's? 10, 12 minutes. So if I prepare a breakfast in 7 minutes, is that okay for you to eat healthy and go to work? So we are competing with time. Time is the major enemy of our lives. And that's why we do have this situation with food addiction. We eat to live. We don't live to eat, correct? And even many times, this is a Guinness book. You heard about the Guinness book, yes? These guys are trying to eat a burger bigger than their head, just to stay cool, to stay in history, correct? And unfortunately, this affects their health majorly. And many people do the same thing in our personal, even though we don't have a Guinness book in our personal home, but oftentimes we compete with our spouses. Who eats more, correct? What is the effect on the brain in terms of food addiction? The brain reacts to stressors, processes emotions, perceives flavors, translates food in happiness, converts imagination in reality, and at the end of the day, we have to confront ourselves with I can't stop eating syndrome. So people are eating for various reasons. Do you know when they go to cinema, you have a big, nice movie, action, and they have a 3 pounds popcorn and 2.5 liters of Coca-Cola, and they drink Coca-Cola on one side, and that guy is running with a racket or machine gun, and you take more popcorn and eat, and that. Adrenaline stimulates food, and people are engaged with a full speed, I can't stop eating syndrome. Somebody says, I have 1 meal per day, from the morning to the evening. People are eating from the morning to the evening. They have no breaks. We have brunches at 10 o'clock. We have lunch at 12. We have dinner at 5. And then we dream all the nightmares in the night. Yes, and people say, I didn't have a good sleep, correct? There must be something about this food addiction. To what extent does appetite control our lives? Is this an honest question that deserves an honest answer? To what extent does appetite control our lives? Another question, can appetite impact the quality of our life? It does. And then the next question is, if appetite becomes master, do we lose freedom? Are we slaves in reality? You know, many times people don't understand food addiction transforms your life in a nightmare because we are slaves. To appetite we cannot control. We don't have that willpower. And just coming back to my story, I was born in this little country, Romania, and I said everything was organic, everything was biologic. 30 years I ate good, tasty food. I came to Canada 20 years ago, and I went to the super store to buy organic apples. When I take a bite, I did take a bite, I felt that I eat a newspaper. And I went with that specific apple to the lady. I said, are you sure that this is the right label on the organic apple? And she says, yes, sir. If it does have a label, it must be true. I said, ma'am, I'm coming from a country with 30 years organic food. And my taste is accustomed with that specific flavor. And this is not organic. You know, and since that time my journey began. At the age of 20 in Romania, I was like this. When I came to Canada / United States, I started to pile up at least 120 pounds every more and more because of the quality of our food. I reached the level of 240 pounds up to a certain point. And in 2009, I did have this weight, 240 pounds. I could not tie my shoe. My wife was looking to me and says, you will never be the same. And I got offended, you know. When your spouse, gives you this ultimatum, you go straight to the cemetery. You will never be capable to be the same, because I was really in love with 4 eggs, goat cheese, and French fries. And this is 4,000 calories, 3 times per week. I was eating 4 eggs, French fries, and goat cheese. I'm vegetarian for 30 years. And in 2012, I went to the doctor. I'm a pastor, you know, you preach the gospel, you tell people about hope. But I was a mess. I was telling people about hope. I was telling them about beautiful eternal life. And I was depressed. I was sick. And when I went to the doctor and they took my blood test, I said, sir, I recommend to you to become a vegetarian. I said, excuse me, I'm a vegetarian for 30 years. And says, no, it doesn't look like. It doesn't look like that. I mean, you don't look like you are a vegetarian, 240 pounds. What vegetarian is that? And indeed, the cholesterol was 300 in the blood. I was really a mess. Acidity was level 5. I set the setup for cancer. I did not have absolutely any chance. The immune system was totally suppressed. I was 1 stage before cancer or heart attack. I already had a cramp on my chest. I had tremendous headaches. I could not sleep very well, and I could not move. As I told you, I could not tie my shoe. I was doing like that. It was horrible experience for me. But when I left that place, I was thinking, who can help me to get rid of 80 pounds? I was eating and eating and eating, and when you get to the food disorder behavior, that's a real problem. And then by the grace of God, I get rid of all these eggs, fries, and whatever, potatoes, and cheese. And in 1.5 years, roughly, I lost 80 pounds. And I believe that is not easy. I was fasting 2-3 days per week because fasting, I'm not talking religiously, but fasting, generally speaking, fasting helps you to strengthen the willpower. The stomach gets smaller, and then you have more control from your brain. Brain helps. The fasting helps the brain and to have a self-control. So I lost around 80 pounds, and I get rid of these animal foods, and I was eating basically fruits in the morning, vegetables in the afternoon, nothing in the evening, a little bit of 6 miles walking / jogging sometime, and nothing in between meals. And today I'm pretty healthy. I went back to the doctor. I took the blood test after 1.5 years. From 300 was 146 together, the cholesterol. So it was a quite challenging experience for me. It was a nightmare. I wouldn't like to go back to that lifestyle. And I value and I appreciate very much what health is, especially when you go to this recovery process. So I cut the meat 30 years ago, but I didn't cut the eggs and the cheese. Do you know that one egg has cholesterol that your liver produces in 1 week? So I was eating 4 eggs 3 times a week. I ate eggs for 500 years in advance. And I am a eggaholic, you know, not alcoholic, but I am egg / alcoholic. So I had to give up some of these items, and I stay still simply in plant-based diet, fruits in the morning, vegetables in the afternoon, a little bit of physical exercise, and I think that was excellent. Now, how can we get rid of this? Look at these statistics. In 1968, McDonald's fast food company was operating 1,000 locations worldwide in 68, correct? In 2010, McDonald's operated 23,000 locations worldwide. Yearly, McDonald's opens over 2,000 new locations. And in the present time, every year, they employ more personnel than the entire U.S. Army. Can you imagine? I mean, this is a mega statement, and this is statistics. The 2 golden arches of McDonald's are more widely known than Christian cross. In China, they know McDonald's, but they never heard about Christ or Catholicism or whatever religion you may have. So it's daily 46 million served every day in the world. French fries, burger is the worst type of food that you can have. And this is horrible, you know, everywhere. You see the map of the world, McDonald's is everywhere. This is American traditional food. 100 countries, 6 continents. Michael Moss is a gentleman that works, it's a journalist. His qualification is investigation. 10 years he spent to go in the food industry laboratories to see what do. They transform our world in such a morbid society. Do you know that the United States has 20% rate of obesity? I mean, it's the highest rate in the world.
What is the rate?
20%. 320 million and 20%.
I'm surprised it's not higher based on what I see.
Yeah, this is more or less, I'm coming up, it depends on the statistics, but roughly 20% is the highest rate of obesity in the world. And we want to, I'm sorry?
I think 1 in 3 adults.
1 in 3 adults. It's a very, 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 very dangerous, you know. And this is because of something specifically. So Michael Moss worked in the research, in investigation. And what he discovered that is this, the food industry employs scientists. What do? Food industry, to make money on you, they employ scientists dressed in white, beautiful, not like priests in dark, in black, you know, they dressed in white, so they are immaculate. So what do they do in those laboratories? They combine 3 things: salt, sugar, and fats. And they combine them in such a manner to produce a drug. Because salt, sugar, and fats in togetherness produces a chemistry that bypasses your central system, and you eat like a drug addicted, no breaks. And look what he says. Thus, he proved that the food addicted people, the same centers are activated exactly like those people that are dependent on what? alcohol, tobacco, or drugs. So they put in the foods, any food. You go to Walmart and you will see that salt, sugar, and fats must be the ingredient, and that creates dependence. That makes people to be addicted to certain type of foods. And food industry is not interested when you go to the cemetery. If you go to the cemetery earlier or later. They don't care about if you get cancer or diabetes or heart problems. They want to make money. Unfortunately, we are living in a society that doesn't have the consistency of ethics and moral behavior like 50 years ago in our beautiful, wonderful country here in America, correct? Today, the only moral standard is money. And by saying this, I think that I said many other things. So what I was saying, salt, sugar, and fats, this is exactly what this burger contains in order to produce elevation of dopamine. Dopamine is a happiness hormone. So anytime when we eat fat, sugar, and salt, our dopamine, our hormone of happiness, elevates 200 times more. You know when your dopamine reacts to 200 times more? When you take cocaine. So people that are using cocaine elevate their hormone, happiness hormone, up to 200 times more higher than normal. And that's addiction. And food does the same thing. Unfortunately, we're running of the mafia cartels in Mexico. They're selling cocaine that elevate your dopamine 200 times. But you have these McDonald's, nobody runs after them, correct? Because they have money and they can pay the judges. So salt, sugar, and fats, that's killing us every day and produces the morbid obesity in our country. Heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. These are the three major sisters that are destroying and devouring our society every day. And by the way, have you ever seen people addicted to watermelon? Why? Because this watermelon, it's a natural product. Well, we do have seedless right now. They do a GMO, they do genetically modified fruits right now. Still, watermelon does not create addiction. Why? Because you don't have fats, sugar, and salt together, correct? So stay simple based diet like plants, fruits, and vegetables, and the least processed. The least cooked, baked, fried, the less addiction they can offer to you. So the more raw, the better food quality and the less addiction. In reality, when you look here, you have a brain, and this is what normal brain functions with. This is the highest quality of gasoline, correct? This is the 87. It's what is the cheap gas, right? 87 is $2.1. I mean 2.1 to 190. So that's the cheap gasoline. If you want to go for the highest grade, this is the food that you should have for your personal life and to secure a good way out from the food addiction. Do you know that in 30 days, if you stop eating burgers and cheese and fried and meat, in 30 days your brain has the ability to reboot itself. 30 days, no salt, sugar, and fats together, not that food. Eat fruits and vegetables. In 30 days, you get rid of many allergies. You heard about allergies, correct? Like a gluten allergy. Have you ever heard your grandma having a gluten allergy 50 years ago? No, why? Do you know why? Because the seed is genetically modified, and today the seed has 20 times more gluten than in an original non-GMO modified seed. And that's why the immune system reacts vehemently to that over-taxation with gluten. And then people have this allergy. What is allergy? Allergy is a form of rebellion of your immune system. And says, Liviu, I mean myself, my immune system tells me, you are crazy. I don't recognize you. The immune system turns back the machine gun against you and then shuts you to death. This is an allergic process in your body. It simply doesn't recognize your command, your control, and says, you hate me, I don't respect you anymore. And your immune system starts to work against you. That's an allergic phenomenon. in our body. And because of this, because we have so much creation and gymnastics in the food industry. And way out, stop eating processed food for 30 days and you can get out of allergies. You know, who gives me power to say no? Because at the end of the day, everybody has an addiction, correct? We talk tonight about food addiction. But who gives me this strength? Who gives me this power to say no to addictions or bad foods? I remember my mother, as parents, we were born in a communist country, and the religion of atheists the religion of communists was atheism. My mother didn't believe in God. My father was a Communist Party activist. And I never seen any religious material in my life. I was surrounded by Muslims. I was born in the southeast of Romania, Constanța, the city of Constanța. And we have a bunch of Muslims, Turkish people. I've been exposed to Quran first, and then after to the Bible. But however, it's interesting that when my mom decided to quit smoking, she smoked for 25 years. And the day when she decided to quit smoking, she was okay, I don't smoke. She did have the willpower. When she decided to quit meat, she could not. So some people have relate to different addictions in different manners. And I do really remember when she knelt down and says, God, if you do really exist, help me to get rid of meat, because I can't. She opened the refrigerator. You have pork, beef, chicken, whatever, deer. It's in fashion here. We have deer, good quality, raw organic food here. And she opened the refrigerator, she knelt down, and she prayed, if you do really exist, God, help me to get rid of meat addiction. And since that time, she is vegetarian. So the idea, what I try to emphasize tonight is, who gives you the power to say no to things that can destroy you? Because in reality, we are living in a world that is totally dependent. Either TV, either foods, alcohol, drugs, sex, and all these crazy things. Who can save us? Who can give us the extra mile power or will strength to say no to bad things? We're just taken by the wave. I think that somewhere must be a choice element in the picture and the power to say no. You know, coming to the second part of our study, if you are a computer guy, eat more fruits. You know, if you work hard, you're a sport guy, or you do physical exercise, and you have a physical activity every day, eat more vegetables. Make sense? Yes or no? Very simple. So if you're a computer guy, your physical exercise is this, eat more fruits. But if you do physical exercise and you are engaged in agriculture or some other events, then more vegetables are recommended to us. A Chinese proverb, because China is in fashion right now, those who want to be healthy and do not take care of their diet are wasting their money and their doctor's time. Make sense or no? So if we're not really interested in our personal health, it doesn't matter how many pills you take. Magic pills, we want a quick fix, correct? You go to the doctor, doctor, I have a headache, I need a quick fix. Here is the pill. And the pharmaceutical industry is growing like an octopus, yes? That's sad. So at the end of the day, who gives us the willpower to say no to bad things? You heard about Alexander the Great, yes? In 10 years, at the age of 32, he conquered the entire world. At the age of 10 years, he reached India. He could not conquer anything else because the entire civilized world was conquered. But you know what? He was an alcoholic. How pity is that such a great general who had the genius, the military genius, could not control alcohol, wine. And at the end of the day, at the age of 32, alcohol conquered him. And he died. I mean, he was drinking a lot of until he got in coma, and he could not recover from that because he was making fun of himself and of others. So sometimes we can be great people, great achievements, yet we can be brought to the cemetery by our own vice and our own dependence of something. So my question to you tonight, sincerely and honestly, do you want to be a free man or a free woman? I mean, freedom is the most brilliant, beautiful gift that we have been blessed with since we were born, correct? But freedom has to be maintained, and freedom has to be guarded. And where do we get that ambition, that will, that strength to say no to bad things? It's hard to say, all this year we have learned about carrot juice and bananas and fruits and vegetables to have a healthy lifestyle. I think that everybody enjoyed this year. We did have this wonderful health seminar. And I do believe that to eat properly, to drink properly, to rest properly, to work properly, to exercise properly, all these things are very, very good. The problem is that carrot juice and bananas and vegetarian lifestyle will not help you bypass the cemetery. At the end of the day, in one day, we all will go where? Here, to cemetery. Now, do you think that carrot juice and bananas will save us from the cemetery? No. How can we manage the terminus point of our life? Have you ever heard about beautiful cemeteries? Oh, I want to be buried in a beautiful cemetery. Who in the universe wants to go in a beautiful cemetery? Do you want a beautiful cemetery? Or I found a good hospital. I'm going to a good hospital. I have a cancer, but there is a good hospital. And they give you chemotherapy in 5 months, 6 months, lose your hair, you lose your mind, you lose everything, and then you're gonna die. And they buried you, they took a lot of money after you, and that's it. That's the reality. So how do you solve the issue with cemetery? Because carrot juice and bananas and fruits and vegetables will still not protect us from this scenery. Are you ready to die? Am I ready to die? What is beyond this cemetery issue? How can we? Do we have a response to this thing? When I was an atheist, because I was educated and, Russian Empire was there, and we had this scientific socialism. You heard about this scientific socialism. You learned that your mother and your father is the monkey, and we are born of some reptiles and mollusks, and evolutionary thinking is all over. But when I read the Bible, I realized that there's more than that. And when I came to the United States, North America basically, it was very interesting, the fact that I heard that I lived in California for 12 years, and all of a sudden somebody tells me that Gorbachev, you heard about Gorbachev? Gorbachev was the brilliant mind of the former Russian Empire, USSR, and Gorbachev, who was a communist, an atheist, who believed in scientific socialism, came to California, University of California, to educate our teenagers, to teach them scientific socialism, which is communism, which is atheism. In America, your children are poisoned every day with this no God. I mean, I do really believe after 20 years in North America that in America Christianity is more persecuted than any other place in the world. Sincerely. You can do absolutely everything you want, but don't say Christ, don't say God, don't say Heavenly Father, Lord's Prayer, nothing. But you can study the Quran in the public schools. And that's part of the system today, correct? And I do respect the missing link. In order to have a complete health by the grace of God, what is missing? And I have few hits here. Dr. Cynthia Tyke says that 5 minutes episode of anger is so stressful that it can impair your immune system for more than 6 hours. So when you have toxic thoughts, when you lose control of your temper, what's happened with you? You poison yourself, shut down the system, and 6 hours you can get hit by any bacteria, virus, and so on and so forth. So, and then you can create even heart attacks. So this is an issue. How can you manage your emotions? That's about health, correct? If you really want to have complete health, you really have to stick to control your brain, to control your emotions, and to have this power of being nice to yourself and to each other, correct? David Hamilton, PhD, says the brain is producing oxytocin. This is which happens through emotional satisfying interactions. Can also help to reduce the level of free radicals. Free radicals are cancer cells. They say it's a beautiful name in the scientific world, free radicals, the crazy cells that are running in your body and they rebel against your system, okay? They call free radicals, but these free radicals are cancer cells. So when you love, when you forgive, when you have a positive thinking, you know you have less chances to get cancer. So we do have carrot juice, we do have fruits, and we do have vegetables. But if we don't have a positive attitude and we are grumpy, jealous, envy, and we hate people, that fruits and vegetables will not help us with anything else. So if you really want to have a complete health, you must go one step farther. And what do they say? David Hamilton, doctor, says, when we turn our hatred into love or our least kindness, our brain releases chemicals including dopamine, which is happiness hormone, correct? And we can improve our mood. On our biochemical level, it is believed that the good feeling we get is due to elevated level of brain's natural version of morphine or heroin, which we know as endogenous opioids. They cause elevated levels of dopamine to the brain, so we get natural high, often referred to helper high. So if we learn to forgive, if we learn to have a positive thinking, that's the result for a complete health. And I do believe forgiveness therapy is the last chapter that we conclude this year. We had all kind of principles of health, but forgiveness is a therapy. I don't know exactly if you heard about, do you like classical music? Is that okay with you? I mean, you heard about Pavarotti, Jose Carrera, Placido Domingo, the greatest tenors in the world. You know what happened? Somewhere in time, these two of these guys got to be enemies in 1984. Placido Domingo from Madrid and Jose Carrera from Barcelona in Spain. They start to hate each other, and they hated so much each other that they didn't even want to sing together. You know, hatred can produce something. And look what happens. In 1987, after 3-4 years, Jose Carrera discovers that he got leukemia. He hated the other guy so much, with so much intensity, that he got cancer. He spent all his money to go to New York for a bone marrow transplant. And when he didn't have money, do you think what happened? Someone was suggesting to him a foundation, Hermosa. And Hermosa Foundation was giving him money to complete his sessions of bone marrow transplant. And finally he got healed. When he came back in Spain, Jose Carrera went to see the policy and the bylaws of this foundation. And with stupefaction, he discovered that the one that was the author and the manager of Hermosa Foundation was his enemy, Placido Domingo. Placido Domingo created this foundation to help his enemy. And he produced so much fundraising to help this guy that was hating him. Placido Domingo didn't tell him, hey, Carrera, I'm fundraising money for you to help you, because he would have been so hateful, he would not have received the money. But when he discovered that Placido Domingo is the author of his rescuing life, he went, guess what? Jose Carrera went to a concert, and he kneeled down before this man, and he, with a hand raised, he says, you are better than me. So the two of them forgave each other, reconciled, embraced, and in front of thousands of people that were watching that concert, they start to sing together again. So love is better than hatred, correct? So I don't know exactly how much fruits and vegetables you love, but if you have fruits and vegetables with no good positive thinking and a proper environment, life does not have much sense. That's why I associate love with God, with divinity, with Christ. As a former atheist, I cannot imagine life without having a Heavenly Father. And I do really believe that it's important for us to have a complete health, to be reconciled with ourselves, with the people around us, and with our Creator. Simon Wiesenthal, he was a Hebrew psychologist, 5 years in Auschwitz. I don't know exactly if you have ever heard about Auschwitz. I've been in Auschwitz in Poland, and it looks like this. When you go there and to visit today, between 1 and 2.5 million people killed, tortured in Auschwitz. I went there, my friends, 3 weeks, you cannot laugh after that. You lose the appetite of life when you go there and you see the chambers of torture, the chambers of extermination in those days. And being a Hebrew, Simon Wiesenthal had a tremendous experience. What was that experience? You know what he did? The Germans were withdrawing from Russia, and somewhere in the forest, they locked up all the Hebrews people, all the Jewish people, mothers, fathers, husbands, children, in a building with 3 floors. And the Germans surrounded this building and put fire. And they were ready with a machine gun to kill everyone who will jump through the window. Guess what? One father takes his child and he throws himself through the window, and with the wife, giving the child the last chance of life. And one of the German officers is taking the gun and he's shooting in the air, killing the son and the father. Later on, the German SS officer was wounded to death, and he was in Auschwitz. A nurse was looking for a Hebrew gentleman. A Catholic German Nazi soldier was asking forgiveness from a Hebrew man. And the nurse found him. Says, "Sir, I have a German SS officer. He's dying, and he cannot die until he asks forgiveness from some Hebrew or Jewish person." So Simon Wiesenthal goes there. The SS guy barely speaks, confesses the story I just told you, and he raises his hand, "Please, in the name of my nation, in the name of German Nazi, please forgive us for all the horrific sceneries and things that we have done against you." And do you know what he did? Simon Wiesenthal withdrew his hand, and I said, "I cannot forgive you." And he left. The German SS officer died. After 22 years, this guy got sick because he was the prisoner of his own memories. He was a prisoner of hatred and toxic thoughts against Germans. He went to the doctor, and the doctor consulted him and says, "Man, you have nothing." And at the end, the doctor asked him, "Tell me, do you still hold grudges against someone?" And then he confessed, "I cannot forgive a German SS officer. For 22 years, I hold in my brain and my heart this hatred against these men." And the doctor is looking to Simon Wiesenthal, says, "Man, you should get out of that cage. Get out of that cell. You will destroy yourself and you will die, because hatred kills yourself." So he decided at the end of the day to get rid of that and to forgive himself and to forgive that person. Those who survived in Auschwitz, these people, were Christians. They have faith, they talk about it, and they kept their faith. The rest died and passed away. You know, Alvin Toffler made a statement, "The secret of power is information." So if you are well informed, you are a powerful man, correct? If you are well disinformed, you are a mess. I'm a mess. So that's why information, it's powerful for us. And why should marvel Alvin Toffler, philosopher, when Jesus Christ said the same thing 2,000 years ago, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you or make you free." I mean, if you say, "Oh, Alvin Toffler, that's a wonderful motto," but if you switch and you say Jesus, "Oh, Jesus," and everybody's running away from Jesus. When in fact, this gentleman, Jesus Christ, made that same statement 2,000 years ago. Just because we are living in a secular situation, a secular world, we reject Christ. Do you know that in public school today, your daughters and your granddaughters are taught Quran, the Islamic religion? Do you know that? Yes, public schools are teaching your children and your grandchildren the Quran. And when you ask them, "Why do you teach my children Quran while you dismiss the scripture?" Because I do still believe the East Coast is the Bible Belt. Yes, we know from New York down the valley to Florida, this is the part of America that still holds to the Bible. When this part will fall, we have no chances for future. So when you ask them, "Why do you reject Heavenly Father? Why do you reject the Bible and you allow the Quran? Why do you kick out Christ and you permit Muhammad and Allah in our schools?" "Hey, we do that just for the cultural sake. We want to teach your children history." Did I give you permission to teach them how to worship Allah? So do you understand what's going on with our country? If you really want to have kind of a more into this, we can invite you to a group seminar format to know and to discover if there is something about the end of the world. Are we close or not? Is this just an invention of humans that the end of the world is real? Or what do you feel? How do you perceive the society today? Is there any moral value left in our country anymore? You know, Roman Empire and Greeks, they collapsed because of lack of moral values. I'm traveling all over the world and people ask me, what do you think about America? Is China going to stand up? I said, nobody will stand up against America. America is the most powerful nation ever in existence in the history of the world. We do have an army 500 years in advance with everybody. So it's not about who will win a war with America, because that's not possible. But America can collapse because of lack of moral values, like the Roman Empire, my dear friends. Romans loved power, money, and freedom. Rome had truth, art without morality, beauty without truth, and glory without character. I think that we have that today here. This is an earthquake, and I conclude, I promise I don't want to abuse your patience tonight, but for the sake of complete health, is we have to forgive each other, and we have to forgive people, and we have to ask forgiveness from God, and to live in peace with all people around us. That will generate and trigger true, real forgiveness and happiness and health. In 1994, there was a terrible earthquake in Europe, and one gentleman in Turkey, and one gentleman was under rubble for 72 hours or something crazy. I mean, the rubble was pressing on his chest, and they found just his hand. They took the pulse, and he was alive. He was alive. So every single second, someone will hold his hand. And look at the difference between this hand, which is vivid, full of life, and this one, correct? Is the difference of colors, correct? So as soon as they will withdraw, someone will need to go to the bathroom or need to go to eat, to have his lunch, they will drop the hand. As soon as you will drop that hand, the pulse will decrease. After 72 hours, they removed the rubbles, and the man was out. The journalists jump on him and say, hey, tell us, how did you survive? They try to make a hero of him. And the guy was emptied of self and ego and pride. And he says, I didn't do anything. Just, I trusted the hand. So today, tonight, we can really trust the hand of God for reconciliation, for a complete health, fruits, vegetables, physical exercise, sunshine, blue sky, fresh air, and a positive thinking. A thinking that can help your health to go up or help your health to go down. And that is reconciliation with God in a vertical manner, and reconciliation with your fellow neighbor in a horizontal manner. So it is up to us if we accept forgiveness as a therapy, as a last chapter of fulfilled health. And Albert Einstein, to conclude, with a German gentleman, one of the most brilliant minds of the world and the scientific world, he says, if I have to choose between nothing and suffering, I choose what? I choose suffering. Tonight, you can choose nothing, or you can choose suffering. Suffering to go against what you feel, to go against your pride, to go against the greatest enemy of yours. And that enemy is yourself. Is not the neighbor, is not your wife or your husband or your child or your friend or your colleague at work. The greatest enemy of mine is self. It's ego. It's my own pride. So you have to choose, I have to choose between nothing or suffering, taking the cross of Christ and going ahead for a perfect health. I thank you very much for tonight, and I hope that the God I believe, the God that helped me to recover my health, is your God and your Father. It's a wonderful Savior, Jesus Christ. He can help you to solve other elements in the picture of your life beyond or beside health, bananas, carrot juice, and some other things. Life is complex, yeah? And sometimes we have many questions that are not addressed and answered properly. But I thank you for patience, and thank you for granting me the privilege to address this message to you tonight. Jesus loves you. Thank you.